Every Friday, our friends at Local Environmental Services, whether it's roll-off bins, water hauling, fence rentals, you name it, if it's in Alberta and Saskatchewan, we encourage you to keep it local at localenvironmental.ca. They give us a chance to hand the floor over to you. You got the conch here, basically. You got the mic. You've got something to say, and you want the province, you want the country to hear it. It's a tradition that we call Trash Talk! All right, this one from Mikey. Mikey says, bullshit! It's all bullshit! Every talking point that comes out of anybody associated with Alberta's government right now, all this talk for years about how they're the ones standing up for Alberta energy, where is that now? Oh, right, it was always bullshit. It's never meant renewables. It was only a way to say oil and gas without saying oil and gas. You know what would be nice? If this province stopped being run by the oil and gas cartels. You want to have a real conversation about oil and gas? We'd better change out our language and start calling them what they really are, cartels. The UCP all of a sudden cares about landowners when they don't give a shit about landowners when it comes to oil and gas issues on their property. You know, they're concerned about a block of concrete in the ground and its environmental impact. A wind turbine? Really? I promised you salty language. Earmuffs, kids. Mikey says, fuck all the way off with that. If that was the case, they'd be throwing up their arms around the concrete pads for storage silos or barns that are placed on agricultural land. Contaminated soil from drilling. Water table issues from fracking. That, apparently, all good. Oh, they're listening to concerns from landowners, are they? Just more, you guessed it, bullshit! These concerns are not grounded in good faith. These are not valid. Wind turbines have been common enough now for 25 years. Solar farms for the same amount of time. These concerns could easily have been answered by the mountain of research and data that's already been collected. They want to know what happens to the concrete base once a turbine reaches the end of its life. You put another turbine on the pad. You want the pad removed? That's a lot easier than soil remediation on a site. Solar, it's surface level. Break it down, pack it up. They got concerns about sound. Look at the studies, the papers that have been written on noise pollution. They have concerns about end of life, some being 30 years from now. Funny, none of them seem to be concerned about the end of life of oil and gas, which happens within days of it being extracted. This government could be providing scientifically researched information and educating, but no, they're just shutting it all down, which is the exact same tactic that it comes to action on climate change. We don't know, we got to study it some more, which means they're just ignoring research that's already been done. And these landowners, this government, concerned about land use and valuable agricultural land being removed for a turbine, again, you got it, everybody, bullshit! If the UCP was really concerned about this, they wouldn't allow a single development anywhere west of the Anthony Henday in Edmonton. They would see to remove all development in the area as well. That is some of the most agriculturally productive soil in the province of Alberta, and it's currently being covered up by houses, shops, and pavement. They would limit the building of development on agricultural land. If they were concerned about visuals and land use, all coal projects would immediately be canceled in the province. So excuse me, you suddenly care about agricultural land, other land use, in a Logan Roy voice, says Mikey. Shout out to Succession. Fuck off. I did my best, Mikey. He says, please say that directly to the minister next time you talk to them. Well, I'm not going to do that, Mikey, but thanks for your submission to Trash Talk. How about this one from Garry? Gary says, I find your shows very interesting. Thanks, Gary. He says, the politicians, your other guests, the experts, their answers on subject matter, very good, except for one thing, says Gary. When worried about climate change, you're talking about the nation of Canada. We are like 1.5% of world emissions. We've heard this before. Gary says, meaning we're a very small country, and I don't believe we're going to make any difference to global warming unless we deal with the other countries. The setting of our goals and targets is fine, but what we really have to deal with is getting our technology out and other countries interested in it. The next thing we must realize is we cannot phase out oil and gas. That's where we get our fertilizer. How are we going to feed people? The next thing is plastics. Everything we use in our homes. How can we phase it out? The next thing would be products coming from oil and gas. They help us refine steel. That would mean a lot to buildings and vehicles and other things that require steel production. Gary's not wrong on any of this. He says, I think all our politicians need to do a little more research on what oil and gas is needed for, unless we're going to end up going back to running horses and buggies. That from Garry. And this one from Alex to wrap it up. Alex says, I was really interested to hear that email, Ryan, that you read from Amy. Boy, did Amy's email ever light a fire in the province. That thing has been viewed like 50,000 times already. Never underestimate the power of sending an email into Real Talk. He says that email shared by Amy outside Brooks, Alberta, about a proposed solar project that was, pardon me, that was Sarah outside Brooks. Amy was writing in about the Frank Lake Concerned Citizens Group. That was that solar project around the bird sanctuary, right? He says that proposed solar project that was denied due to the effect on wildlife. However, if anything, doesn't that example prove that the process was already working? The best way to listen to all concerns is to consider all views on a case-by-case basis. In other words, what was already happening before the moratorium, but now isn't happening because of the moratorium, says Alex. Says, I'm very concerned about the long-term effect of the pause on investor confidence, and I feel very badly for what this means for current workers in the renewables industry. Plus, shutting down jobs always has a ripple effect on the economy. Says Alex, a government shutting down all new growth in a particular industry for several months with no exceptions is, quite frankly, interventionist bullshit. Signs off in true Canadian fashion. Thank you, and with respect. That from Alex to talk@ryanjesperson.com. You can send us your trash talk anytime. Our inbox is always open, talk@ryanjesperson.com. And thank you for being the most engaged talk audience in Canada. Make it an incredible weekend, friends. We're back on Monday with more. In the meantime, thanks for your support of Real Talk.